Wait, you have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV. Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hi everybody, welcome to TV Guidance Counselor. I am Ken Reed, as always. I am your TV guidance counselor, and I'm very excited. I always say that I'm very excited, but I mean it, and I am extra excited this week because my guest is the fantastic Janeane Garofalo. Yes, that Janeane Garofalo. It was great to talk to her. I've been watching her on stuff for years and years and years. I've always enjoyed her stand-up, and it was really great to talk to her. We bond a bit over our mutual love of Sctv. I love almost everything I've ever seen her do. I can't think of anything that I haven't enjoyed that Janeane has done, from TV Nation to Ben Stiller's show, and I loved her on Air America, and it was great to get to talk to her. I talked to her out at the Bridgetown Comedy Festival, which is an excellent comedy festival in Portland, Oregon. If you have the means, I highly recommend that you attend it some year. It's very, very fun. Janeane, as she mentions, is not on social media at all. All of the Janeanes on social media are actually fake Janeanes. So I will not be linking to her social media on tvguidancecounselor.com because it doesn't exist. So you will just have to see her live. She does have a website, though, with some dates on it, since she's doing some touring. So definitely go see her if you have the means, if she is in your town. And I think you'll enjoy this episode very much. So please sit back, relax, and listen to TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Janeane Garofalo. Miss Janeane Garofalo, thank you so much for doing the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It was we both got lost in Portland.
We did.
Yeah, it's
literally and metaphorically.
Yes, we wrote a script about it. We're shopping it around.
Right.
Yeah.
I really think it's got legs.
I think it does too.
It's going to be great for new TV. With the second golden age of television.
Yeah, Lost in Portland, where you just find you're like, is this a real food truck or is this a mirage?
And where can I get some chocolate where I watch them make it?
Yeah.
And they're very specific about where it's sourced in Peru.
Yeah, yeah. Who picked this? Do you have the name of the person that picked this? Let me call him.
What kind of nibs are you using?
The nibs.
The cocoa nibs.
Yeah, I made the mistake of buying cocoa nibs because I was like, those sound pretty good, and they're like horribly bitter.
Very bitter.
Yeah, I was like, this is not
very
good.
Bitter. I can't resist. They're Hudson Brothers.
Yeah, so
Hudson Brothers.
You picked an edition from 1978.
1978.
Yeah.
Yes, this is September 23rd through 29th of 1978. My birthday is September 28th. I was just turning 14 this week. In television guide history.
Yes.
35 cents.
Good deal.
And
did you guys have a subscription to TV Guide when you were growing up?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
And as a child, probably others did this too, I would go through it and circle what I wanted to watch for the week. It was very important. Because you had to
You got a plan.
Then.
Did you ever turn down anything because something was on that you had circled, like someone invited you somewhere and you're like,
Well, yeah, but it's not like I was getting invited that many places when I was 14.
Yeah.
But I was also a huge fan of TV and of the specific things I wanted to watch, as I am to this day. But
did you have one TV in the house?
Well, we used to have just one big TV, and then probably around the time I was that age, I think I had a little red
black and white
TV with the rabbit ear antenna.
Yeah, little Magnavox portable.
Yeah, in my bedroom.
Yeah, that was like a whole taste of freedom that you would get, where you're like, I have this window to everything right in my room.
Yep, a little black and white TV, and then also, these were back in the days of turning the television knob.
Yeah,
but we were also, interestingly, a test family for HBO home box office.
Really?
In around 74, 75.
Because it started in New York as it was affiliated with the Madison Square Garden Network.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we lived in Madison, New Jersey.
Okay.
And which is very close to
Madison Square Garden. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but actually, that's not why it's called Madison. There's a Madison in every state.
Okay.
At least that's what I was told.
It's like German chocolate cake.
But exactly. But there, it's probably about 40-minute drive from there. But So we had the HBO box that you put on the top of the television, and it would slide.
Oh yes, yeah.
Slide the knob back and forth, and basically, here's what was on all the time: The Great Santini.
Yep.
The original Swept Away. Mm-hmm. Sports.
How did that happen? Like, did a guy come to your door, like in the box, and was like, "I'd like to offer you a deal"?
I don't know how it happened. There was a number of families in my neighborhood. It's just one of those things.
Can you imagine being one of the families that in your neighborhood that didn't get it?
I don't think it meant that much to people back then. Right. It wasn't really a thing, but I remember being exposed to some things I shouldn't have seen.
Oh, absolutely.
I saw a movie called Lipstick starring Margot Hemingway, which terrified me.
That's like a stalkery movie, correct?
It's a stalkery, very graphic, brutal rape of both Mariel and Margot Hemingway.
Which in the 70s, there's so many rape movies.
Yeah, there was A Case of Rape with Elizabeth Montgomery.
Yes, she was in a ton of those
And now there's
movies.
just Rape TV, which is crime procedurals that masquerade as something they're not. It really is just torture porn and misogyny and nonsense, Criminal Minds and SVU.
It's an excuse to really, under the guise of being like above it, like we're solving this crime, right? But also let me tell you all the details of this crime.
It's terribly exploitive and unimaginative, and Dick Wolf never meant for that to happen. I'm sure at the beginning.
And it's weird when you see like a Death Wish movie, which was
Walking Tall
was the screen debut of Jeff Goldblum. In Death Wish, he plays one of the rapists. He's really young.
That is unusual to picture Goldblum in that context.
Yes, I caught it on TV a couple of years ago. And I was like, "Is that Goldblum?" Like it totally takes you out.
I'm sure he's totally recognizable.
Oh, absolutely.
Even as a young
he's
person.
very Goldblummy in it.
And there was the movie with Linda Blair where she was in prison.
That's Heat.
Was it Caged Heat?
No,
maybe not. No.
With the shower scene. But there's another rape revenge movie that she's in where her sister's deaf, and then she goes after these punks with a crossbow. It's called Savage Streets.
I don't know that one.
All the 4 or 5 of them.
Well, it's a tale as old as time. I mean, this type of stuff is not new, but it's never been so packaged and slicked up as it is on like the CSI or these type of shows.
Yeah, because even in the 70s stuff, it had it seemed sleazy, and even though these big studios were making these movies like Straw Dogs, had kind of a pedigree to, you know what I mean? It was, but it still had this like grimy, like it was unpleasant, and the slickness of the stuff now. And I actually read an article, and you may have heard this as well, that these procedural shows are making juries really difficult because procedural shows are essentially science fiction. Like they're like, oh, pull up the DNA on that, and you can't do that.
They have things that don't exist. I was actually on a spin-off of Criminal Minds called Criminal Minds Suspect Behavior for a season.
Okay.
Where I played Forrest Whitaker's partner.
Excellent.
And never
of Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
First movie. Never have so many people worked so hard for no particular reason. Forrest Whitaker, a wonderful person, great actor, should never have been subjected to what he's subjected to. And myself and Bo Garrett and Michael Kelly and Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan also, who played Hamlet. He's from Wales, and he's a Shakespearean actor who thought he should do American television because he didn't
as
know.
all British acters do, and then they come over here and they're playing like a supervillain or
they're on Grey's Anatomy or something. But it was such a shame because there was no reason to make that show. There's no reason to have that show Criminal Minds on in general, but it does very well in certain segments of the country and the world.
It all day. It's just
Criminal Minds and people. And the thing was, as bad as Criminal Minds is, this was way worse. This spin-off one.
What was the angle on the spin-off? I don't remember.
I have not. It just.
I was on it. And I
don't
even
know. It was mercifully canceled after a season, and my character was shot in the head in the last episode. And it was one of the greatest days of my life.
Yeah.
Honestly, to know that I didn't have to go back to that. Now, having said that, I liked the cast and crew very much, but I have nothing to say good about the structure.
I'm picturing like in a werewolf movie where the werewolf gets shot with a silver bullet, and then right before they die as the human, they just go, "Thank you."
That I would have loved to have done that. That was my feeling inside.
Like you get shot in the show, and he's like, "Thank you for releasing me from my prison."
I was thrilled. They didn't want me back either because they knew that I was very disturbed by the scripts.
Did you think it would be different when you went in?
I shouldn't have. I was just so flattered that somebody offered me a job because it's not like there's people banging down my door to work for them. So once enough time goes by and you're not, you're auditioning and failing, you're
Right,
not getting anything, you con yourself into thinking against your better instinct.
Right.
I knew deep down
Yeah.
I would not be happy. I took it anyway, hoping a little sliver of, but you never know.
Yeah.
Forrest Whitaker, you never know.
It's a good, I mean, I've talked to people who, they on paper, they're like, oh no, look at the people involved.
Right.
They explained it this way. And then, you go in and then you're like, oh no, that's not.
Right.
Now
And the
you're
worst
stuck.
thing is I intensely dislike Criminal Minds. And,
Yeah.
Mandy Patinkin, who I like very much, left Criminal Minds for the exact same reason I wanted out.
Right.
And of course the legend is he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Around there.
What an asshole, wanted more money.
Yeah, that's not it at all.
Yeah.
He just cares about what he does.
Didn't you-
for a living.
This totally, I don't know why I know this fact, and this may be totally apocryphal and wrong, but isn't there a Mr. Show sketch?
Yes, he's
where
in
you
it.
came up with, Mandy Patinkin was a horse as a name of a racehorse. It's where Bob Odenkirk plays the pool shark guy.
Oh, there's two. Well, Mandy Patinkin was in an
he's
episode.
He's in the movie, isn't he?
He's in the thing with Jack Black, the musical. Of that.
Run, Ronnie, Run.
He's in that, yes, but he's also in the first season of Mr. Show.
Oh, yes.
In the musical version of that joke about the farmer's daughter.
Yes.
And then
The milking machine.
Mandy Patinkin's horse is something like when Bob Odenkirk's doing a history through pool.
Yes, yeah.
And
I thought they remember saying that you came up with the Mandy Patinkin was
I
a horse
might
or something.
have, but I don't know for sure. It's just that there was I think my contribution was I thought the horse should be called Papa's Delicate Condition.
That's what
which
it is. Yes.
That was my name for
Yes,
horse, which is
okay,
after a
that's
Jackie
right.
Gleason film.
Yes.
But I just thought that'd just be something. Papa's Delicate Condition.
Yes, that is a perfect name of the thing.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, this is a long history with liking Mandy Patinkin. If that's what
Well, I do love Mandy Patinkin,
Yeah.
and I have for years, and I respected him immensely when I heard about Criminal Minds. That also should have told me something.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, I always have stand-up, and I have been doing it since '85. I love it. It's very fulfilling creatively, but it's not always the most lucrative thing.
Yeah.
And also, I like to do other stuff, too, in addition to it. And
Yeah.
if you are successful in other areas, more people come see you do stand-up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
But it's a delicate balance too, because you get that thing where it's like, I've done shows with stand-ups that I've been lucky enough to open for that have like a big comedy nerd audience, like Patton or someone.
Right.
And so when you're opening for them, like the audience is like, you get the seal of approval. We're here to see comedy.
Right.
But then I've opened for people like Saget, who people don't even know that they do comedy.
Right, and they're not prepared for the type of comedy
No,
he
and
does.
they're going to see a famous person. They're
Right.
not going to see a stand-up. So they spend the whole show being like, suck a dick.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
just like, no, this is...
You have to be very careful. And also, I have no social media platforms. There's a fake me tweeting and a fake Facebook me. It's not me. But over the years, that loses you audience, too.
Yeah.
So if you lose visibility in the acting world and you lose visibility in the social media platforms, which I have, you have to expect that less people are going to
Right.
come see you, which
Right.
actually is okay with me because I don't want to have social media
They
platforms.
want to, but the people who are coming really are
Hopefully
there to
they-
see. Yeah,
yeah.
they're not stumbling in
Hopefully,
there.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's also why I like to do comedy Sundays through Thursdays.
Yeah.
As opposed to
It's not just people
Friday,
going out
Saturday.
to do comedy.
Yeah, it's a different vibe, and also preferably if you can do a venue that's not a comedy club
Yeah.
proper. But if you have to do a comedy club, a proper comedy club, make sure it's Sunday through Thursday.
Yeah, because on the Friday and Saturday, and I always say how weird this is when, and I always point out, if you're talking with your friends, something to do, you go, hey, let's go movie. And
Yeah.
You're like, what movie are you going to see? Just movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you mean? You show up and it's like a horror movie and they're like, this is offensive and gross. And it's like,
Right.
well, yeah, but it's a horror movie. And be like, I went to see movie. This is not what I expected.
That's what happens on the weekends.
Yeah,
at a lot of
they
comedy
react that
clubs.
same way at the comedy show. I came for a comedy show. It's like, yeah, you
Right.
got one. Not like
Right,
this.
but not like the one I want,
Yeah.
or what I think I want.
Yeah.
And you could say comedy subjective, but it isn't. I actually disagree
Some
with that.
things-
Some things are funny, and some
Yeah.
things are not funny.
Yeah.
And now there are people who do not think I'm funny at all. Okay, it hurts my feelings, and I hate when it happens. It happens. It's just the way it is. But that doesn't mean that comedy's not subjective.
No. I mean, I encounter that as well.
I mean, it isn't. I just said that wrong.
Objective.
Objective.
Yeah, there's an objective nature to it. There are certainly things that are like, no, that's funny.
Or no, that's not funny.
Yeah, it's not funny. And yeah, I always think in this, in my sort of like punk rock youth thing, I'm like, if everybody likes it, it can't be good. But I'm like, that's true.
Which is sometimes true.
Yeah.
Then sometimes there are things that everybody likes, and it is good.
Yeah,
Like,
but
it
for art
just
stuff, I
doesn't-
feel like that's really rare because.
But it does happen.
Yeah, but for everyone's experiences, for something to appeal to that many people, it has to a degree, be really generic because because it can't be a very specific vision for a lot of ways because
True.
it's going to be off-putting to somebody.
But then there's some things that somehow transcend. You could say like The Simpsons as the example of there's something for the discerning person, something just for the casual.
Right. And that show's been on for so long, though, that it's like 10 different shows.
Right.
It's heads like SNL. People, I need to look this up because I always quote this and I don't know who said it, but someone said, I can tell you the definitive answer of what the best year for SNL was. And you can't argue with it.
What?
When you were 12 years old. And it's always true because people argue their favorite cast and it's always the one they watched when they were 12 years old.
That's not for me because I have actually loved different cast members over the years and really, really been admired some of the work through every year that no matter what, it's always been good and bad.
It always has.
That's the nature of it. But people like to make sweeping generalizations about it. So that's the way it is. But there's never been a season where there hasn't been something of value.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. But I think we probably watched it in a way that your average person doesn't. Like, I'm not a sports fan at all, but I can rattle off SNL statistics the way people are like baseball players stats. You know, I'm like, well, in '85 they had a good team, and this person was their utility player. You know, like and I don't think people normally.
Well, there's a lot of people actually who do that. They probably just don't have. You don't talk to them that much.
True.
But there's a lot of people who do care very much about SNL because it's written about and discussed all the time. But that's a unique example because it is an institutional show.
It's the longest
running show.
Yeah.
And
I assume you watched that as a kid.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I was actually more of an SCTV fan. As big of an SNL fan as I was and am intermittently still. SCTV was
amazing.
And it came on at 75 as well. We got it on an affiliate.
Yeah. There was the half-hour versions of SCTV. This was the original Canadian broadcasting version. We used to get it in Boston. You could get it from Canada sometimes. PBS would sometimes air it.
Yeah.
And then in 1980, NBC bought it as a Friday night show that they were grooming to replace Saturday Night Live, which they did in 85 as well with a couple of shows, including a Jay Leno sketch show, which is...
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, he did a 90-minute sketch show. They also asked Mike Nesmith to do television parts.
I love Mike Nesmith.
Mike Nesmith's my favorite
Mike
person
Nesmith
ever.
is my favorite.
Yeah.
I have unironically loved
He's
Mike
amazing.
Nesmith since '68. When I first, and I love the Monkees to this day. I love the show. I love the music. I think I love the Monkees. Mike Nesmith, though, in particular,
amazing.
And he still tours.
I saw him twice last year.
I love him, and I met him once, and I was so tongue-tied that I fear it came off as rude, which was not my intention.
But he's such a because I'm very intimidated by him as well. But he's such like a congenial, like, hey, how are you?
He was so nice to me, and I could do nothing but be what could only be perceived as surly, I think. This was probably around 97, 98, and we both happened to be staying in the same hotel.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, he was very, very nice to me, and he even invited me to lunch one day.
Well, he probably really likes your work. He's a big stand-up fan.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I said no about going to lunch because I thought,
you were terrified.
I will never know what to say to this person. And I've always regretted that. And I've never been able to see him again because when he's been on tour, both one time when I was in Manchester, England, he was there, but I couldn't do it. And twice in New York, he was there, I couldn't do it. And I've always wanted to right that wrong. I'm sure he doesn't remember it.
You can reach out. I swear, he's a huge stand-up fan. His television part show, which I don't know if you remember that show. He started. He invented the music video, which
and then MTV stole the idea from him, claiming that it wouldn't work.
They owned it too because they sold it to Nickelodeon originally as a thing called Pop Clips. But he made the first video album, which is a thing called Elephant Parts, and they used to air a lot of the sketches on Playboy TV weirdly as filler between things.
That's unusual.
Really weird. And so he did this show called Television Parts based on Elephant Parts that he basically would take stand-up comedians he liked. He would say, here's a budget, make a 3-minute short film. That was the only direction he gave them.
Wow.
And then he would air it. And so Gary Shandling did what ended up being the pilot for It's Gary Shandling Show there. Leno did one of the things that I liked that he did. That was really funny.
Let me say this in Leno's defense, because a lot of people, for whatever reason, feel like using him as a whipping boy. Fantastic stand-up comic, especially in the 70s
Before
and 80s
he got
and early 90s.
The Tonight Show, he did some interesting stuff. And this
and he still does sometimes live.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, when he... And people thought he's a very nice man.
Yeah.
He's extremely nice, and he would like to be well liked. I would say that I guess is his Achilles heel, which I can identify with.
You try to make everybody happy.
When it's that important to you, And it is to me too. I can't stand it when people don't like me.
Yeah. No,
and unfortunately, lots of people don't, and it's devastating to me.
Yeah.
He carries it a little further than I'm capable of.
Yeah.
You know, he's more capable of being well liked by the most amount of people than I am.
Yeah.
Because I wind up alienating people somehow mysteriously. I don't know how it happens.
Well, I
Sometimes,
think the more you're yourself, you're going to inherently alienate people.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. And the more you put yourself out there, that's another reason I stay away from social media.
Yeah.
The more you expose yourself, the more you give people a reason to dislike you.
Well, especially people that do comedy, because you are doing a thing you created. And in the current climate with things like Twitter, everybody thinks that they're funny more than ever. I mean, doing comedy for a long time, I'm sure I've had people be like, I'm pretty funny, whatever. But we've basically invented technology to allow people to tell everybody that.
Right.
So there's a weird antagonism where they're like, you think you're funny? Like instantly right off the bat. Like, and it's one of the only mediums I can think of it. Like, if you don't go like, you think you can make a movie?
You think you could be a lawyer?
I can make a movie. You think you can doctor? Like, no one. But for that, it's so people instantly. It's sort of they're already sort of on the back foot. But Mike Nesmith is. I mean, he produced Repo Man, which is the movie that changed my life. Like, I'm like, yes.
And that was back when it was unusual to have like an indie, quote unquote, indie film that you had to go to the theater to see.
Yeah.
And it was there for as long as it was there. And then sometimes they would make these midnight showings of these films that really just captured the imagination of a segment of the population and sustained, you know.
And you could, and that was how you found people that had the same interest. Like, if there were people at a midnight showing of Repo Man, you're like, all these people are my friends.
And they tend to like the same music you like, and they would tend to like the same comedians and television that you like. And it just sort of all goes together.
When you went to Emerson, right?
No, I did not.
Okay.
But I went to Providence College in Rhode Island.
Okay, but you lived in Boston.
And then when I graduated, I lived in Allston.
Okay.
And hooked up with a lot of the Emerson kids.
Yeah.
But I started doing open mics when I was still a junior at college.
In Providence?
Yes, Providence, but also a drive into Boston.
Okay, because that was rough at that time.
Periwinkles in Rhode Island and a couple other places, but mostly it was only like a 40-minute drive. So I would drive into Boston, not just to do open mics if I could, if there was space for me, but just to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the scene was great there. What I was going to ask too is in like the mid '80s, that's when the Midnight Movie was like the heart of it was sort of the corridor between New York and Boston, and there you had the Orson Welles Theater, which closed in like '86, but I don't know if it was around when you were hanging around there, and the Brattle.
There was the Brattle, Nickelodeon,
yeah,
stuff like that, and there was just a scene, and some of those theaters still exist today in different cities and have made a comeback in different cities.
Which is interesting because with the way television has changed now, so a lot of the spectacle in movies came about because of television. And this is more for the listener's benefit than yours. But, you know, like widescreen and 3D and all these things, movies said, we got to compete because these people can watch this stuff in their house. And so once they figured out how to do that, then television kind of became a different animal. But in recent years, where people now have home theaters, they can watch whatever they want at any time. Theaters a couple of years ago were like, we're going to go away. But they've kind of looked back and made them more communal experiences now with Q&As and midnight shows. And that's kind of nice. Like they've seen that we have to have human interaction because it's what we can offer.
Because people do like to do that. Now, having said that, there's still some communal theater experiences that are a real drag. You know, people with their phones and ill-mannered and, you know, in the same way with just... There seems to be a lack of consciousness in those areas on airplanes and, you know, just stores everywhere. People just being loud and being.
And when you say something to them, they're like taken aback. What did I do?
I know. And as is human nature, depending on, people tend to only say something if they feel they can physically take the person.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I
true.
mean? And people only tend to say something back if they feel they can or if they're in a group.
Yeah.
Now, I can't physically really take anybody, so I can never say anything.
Yeah.
You know?
So
I can't fight. I can't. I wish I knew Krav Maga or self-defense or something,
good,
just in the defense of public decorum.
Yeah. No, I've definitely.
And quiet.
Maybe I think I could physically take these people, which actually is probably the case. That's one of the, growing up in Boston, there are inherent things to my personality that I just hate that you like don't realize are weird till you start traveling. And you're like, oh, most people aren't like, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Actually, that's not true.
Okay.
Most people are like that. It just depends on which parts of town you're in.
Right, exactly. You're right.
Today, this very day, as I was walking to you here, I was walking, and for some unsolicited reason, a woman was walking towards me, and she just let me have it because she felt I wasn't paying attention and looking where I was walking.
What?
I wasn't on the phone, nothing. I rarely...
Was she in a car?
No. She was walking towards me. Now, maybe she forgot to take her medication or something.
Yeah, that's possible.
But she's like, why don't you pay attention? Look where you're going. We didn't even almost accidentally brush each other.
That's
Nothing
very
like
weird.
that. And...
Maybe she was your guardian angel.
No,
maybe she meant it metaphorically.
No, she was
Jane,
a person
pay
who was
attention.
spoiling for a fight.
She just wanted anyone.
She
yeah.
was spoiling for a fight,
Yeah.
and it must have looked like she calculated.
I can take her. Yeah,
which she could. She
yeah.
can.
So were you just like, sorry?
I am so unused to stuff like that.
Right.
I think sometimes people misunderstand, not just me, but comedians in general.
Yeah.
As being people that can handle crowds
Or
or aggressors or stuff, or love
love
confrontation. I do not in any way. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not used to it.
The person who wants to go have a one-sided conversation that they're in control of doesn't like confrontation.
Right,
You would
exactly.
think that
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
But I'm not in control of it. You
Yeah.
know what? You're not in control of the conversation.
Yeah.
And also, I try to be as interactive as I can.
Right.
And also, getting back to when I was saying I accidentally alienate people because of politics and culture and speaking on these topics when asked.
Yeah.
Why that offends as many people as it does has something to do with gender.
I'm
That's
sure.
undeniable.
Yeah.
Gender plays a role in these things.
But it's industry too.
Definitely. There's two things. There's two sins I've committed: being female and being in the entertainment business.
I don't know what you were thinking.
Which many people feel that those are the two worst things
Yeah.
that can happen to the political conversation.
You're not black, at least.
Well, that's different for some of the naysayers, right? They wouldn't feel comfortable criticizing
Right.
a person of color
Yeah.
because their racism is turned to tokenism in a
Yeah.
strange way. They fear it. But for a female, and there's some people going, ugh, but there is a low-level hum of misogyny that afflicts every one of us in almost every culture.
I wonder if it's like, I think I could take her.
I don't think it's. I think I
sort
could
of
take her, but
caveman
there's
thing.
definitely the comfortability of.
Yeah. It's not
I don't
threatening.
fear she's not threatening.
Yeah.
But there's just two things. If when it comes to discussing politics and culture, if you are female and in the entertainment business, you have two strikes against you going in.
Yeah, I mean, not that it's right, but the female one I understand culturally because people, especially older people are like, you let the husband have the opinions on physical.
It transcends
So it kinda-
generation. It
kinda-
transcends generation.
There are certainly people who probably still have those viewpoints. And again, I don't agree with it, but I can see where that travels from. It's
But
still
will the
wrong.
vitriol leveled at women in the public, think of Amy Schumer at the
Yeah,
Friars roast.
yeah.
90% of that vitriol is because she's female.
Women shouldn't say those
Well,
things.
It's not even. I don't know what it is. It's not even a stance as complex,
Right.
and that's not even
They don't
complex.
even
as
know
women.
what their
it's not
point is.
even. They don't. It's a visceral
Yeah.
limbic brain reaction.
This is wrong.
And also, if it's a person who they feel doesn't fit into their definition of beauty,
Oh, yeah.
that's a whole nother strike against you
Yeah.
that people feel very comfortable
How
pointing out.
dare you?
But that's we're getting off topic.
Yeah, but for
we
the
needn't discuss this
It's fine.
further.
For the entertainment industry piece, though,
Uh-huh.
the weirdest thing, and I've brought this up on the show a bunch of times, is that they're like, you're in entertainment, you have no business having an opinion.
Right.
And they're like, just fucking say your words in
Shut
the
up
show.
and sing. Well, first of all, everybody, newscasters is in entertainment.
Yeah.
Every single Rush Limbaugh is in entertainment. And
Sometimes
Coulter's,
he's in charge of it, and sometimes he's not.
all of those people
Yeah.
are everything they accuse a person
Oh, yeah.
who has been in a movie of. First of all, people like Rush Limbaugh make about $25 million a year.
Yeah. But he goes on and on about blue collar
But they'll
people.
talk about
Yeah.
just plain working folks. Bill O'Reilly, in upwards of $25 million
Former
a year.
Boston newscaster Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, Irish bully.
Yeah.
Bully. These are just bullies. But
Yeah.
they will project. They will accuse the other of everything they're
Yeah,
guilty
of what they do.
But there's no for the average Fox moron.
Yeah.
And any other moron, Fox notwithstanding, who is on the wrong side of
email
history.
forward crowd. As
Yeah,
I-
just on the wrong side of
Yeah,
history.
yeah.
But they love to imbue people who happen to be in the entertainment business or in the arts or any of these things or live on the East Coast
Yeah.
with all these negative qualities. It's
not
just
real
this-
America.
It's just this easy, low-hanging fruit.
But they don't do that for any other profession. So that's the weird thing is like, just be a plumber, shut up about politics, fix the
Right.
sink. Like, they
Unless
don't
that
do
plumber
disagrees with them.
disagrees with
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
then it's shut up and fix my sink.
Yeah.
So, but yes, you're right. For some reason, a tax-paying citizen,
They live in America?
your tax-paying
Yeah.
citizen, allegedly, it's a democracy. We don't live in democracy. It's a managed democracy of sorts, and the First Amendment rights sometimes do and
Depending
don't
on
hold.
what they say, yeah.
And then there's the nonsense like Pamela Geller, which has nothing to do with First Amendment rights.
Yeah, that's just an asshole.
She's just a provocateur
Yeah.
who is terribly willfully ignorant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pridefully ignorant
Yeah.
and mean-spirited.
Yeah.
Again, we're off topic. We
It's fine.
needn't discuss this.
Speaking of someone not pridefully mean-spirited.
Yes.
This issue has Mary Tyler Moore
Yes,
on the cover.
Mary Tyler Tinker.
Yes.
As was.
Yes. Grant Tinker's wife?
Grant Tinker's wife.
Yes.
In 1978. Mary Tyler Moore. Now, the reason I chose this, besides it was my birthday.
Yes.
I have very, very fond memories, as a lot of people of my age do, of watching Mary Tyler Moore, Carol Burnett, on Saturday. Mary Tyler Moore, Carol Burnett,
Rhoda
Bob
was on for a
Newhart.
bit. Yeah, all the MTM
on Saturday night,
productions.
it was
yeah.
MTM shows on Saturday night with my mother, and my mother died when I was young. This is something that we both shared, and
Right.
I would fall asleep in her lap could barely make it to the end of Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
And also there's things, and I think a lot of people feel this way, when you see your parents laugh genuinely, it can be unusual and it can be something you remember.
Yeah.
And
It has a real weight to it.
it has a weight to it, and that's what I love so much about Mo Wallen. Is his name Mo Wallen? He writes children's books that their parents can like too,
Right.
and he's frequently at Sketchfest, and he has the comedians read his children's books and act out the parts
Right.
for the parents and their children. And depending on, like Kevin Pollak, just as one example, was doing one of the parts as Christopher Walken in this children's
Right.
book, and
kids
to
wouldn't
see
know
the
that.
parents laughing that hard, I was noticing little children noticing
Yeah.
their parents.
You learn how to be an
laughing.
adult by seeing.
But also, you
what your
don't
parents-
really get to see a lot, 'cause I think life overtakes a lot of adults. The quotidian aspect of
Yeah.
life and child rearing. I mean, I've never had children or anything, but
Me either.
one I can see how you lose yourself as an adult
yeah.
in a lot of ways, especially if you have children. You know, you don't
You
genuinely
exist as a
laugh.
vehicle to keep that kid alive.
Yes, as you should.
Yeah.
And
Or you're supposed to.
A
Not
lot of
everybody
things can be, and it's depending on how your marriage is doing or not doing.
Yes.
All of these things affect how much you laugh in a
Yes.
day.
There's a couple. One thing is that not to say that John Hughes really was really capturing a thing, but there is a line in The Breakfast Club that I still bring up, and it's Molly Ringwald says, "When you get older, your heart dies," and
Which I don't know if that's true.
I don't know it's
I think
totally
it's
true.
only true for people who it's true for.
yeah, it's a little Morrissey-ish, but
I think it's leaning toward hyperbole.
it is.
Your
but
heart
I think you have to
changes.
suppress emotional reaction to a degree to get shit done.
Yes, but your heart also opens when you have children,
Yes,
and if you're a
for
good parent
them.
anyway.
Yeah.
And then you, I believe if you are good at it,
Yeah.
you love in a way you will never.
You experience things all over again that you never would.
and you have an unconditional love that
Right.
that is for your children only.
Right.
You can't have that kind of really, and sometimes
Right.
for your pets.
Yes,
if
that's-
you're a good pet owner,
that would be us.
That's me. Yeah, that's how I feel about my pets.
Yeah. Although he watches me laugh and doesn't understand the shows, I don't get it. But the other thing is that there's been studies that show that like the number of times a person laughs in a day from childhood to adulthood, and I forget the exact numbers, but a child between like 2 and 5 laughs like 100 times a day,
Right.
and then like an 18-year-old laughs like 4.
Right.
And it
Well,
gets-
depending
yeah.
who you how it's going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But-
I laughed all the time
Yeah.
when I was a teenager because I had a great group of
Yeah,
friends.
you had in
who were
jokes
also,
and you had experiences, yeah.
I was lucky that way. There was garden variety bullying, as there is for everyone, but I consider
Right.
myself lucky for what didn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And could have.
Right.
And you witness happen to other kids. But I laughed a lot, laughed so much through college, and laughed, luckily, because of what I do and events like this Bridgetown Comedy Festival,
Yeah.
I get to laugh a lot
Yeah.
with my friends a lot.
Yeah.
And that's a very good thing. not as much as when I was younger, because also I don't hang out as much anymore. I don't drink anymore and all that kind of stuff. So
and you've seen so much more stuff.
And-
It's harder
yeah.
to, but when you laugh, it's like more.
Yeah.
You really, because
I'm really laughing.
I'll watch a
And-
comedy show and people are like, "You're not liking this?" I'm like, "No, I'm enjoying it." And they're like, "You're not laughing," and I'm like, "Yeah, you kind of don't after a while."
Right.
So when you do, it's like a really big.
But then
thing.
there's times where somebody will get me like, I'm like, that was so fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe that person just said the perfect joke.
Yeah.
That is so funny. And I still love watching TV comedy as much,
Yeah.
if I like it or.
Although the problem
comedy
we
film.
have when we watch things too is I'm like, "Oh, that joke should have been this."
Well, I actually feel like sometimes I see with a little judicious editing, this failure could be turned around. Like
Yes.
sometimes I'll watch a
I
show and
can
say, like,
fix this. Yeah.
just don't put that, don't hold on that person.
Yeah.
Don't cut away after
You
these jokes.
almost got it.
Like Friends did it all the time, and other shows. There's this flawed paradigm at the mainstream networks of once a character says something allegedly funny, or maybe it is funny,
Do it
they
all
cut
the
away
time.
to each other cast member making a face.
Yeah.
It's a killer. It's
I
terrible.
I hate mugging.
It's a terrible idea, and
Yeah.
it's ABC, NBC, and CBS are never going to catch up. They're never going to change the way they do things, because then a whole lot of people would have to get fired. So they will never admit to
Right.
these tropes. Now there are shows that do succeed sometimes on these shows, despite the structure,
all
despite
TV
the network's
that's
best
good. I
efforts.
feel like is despite
Yes, it
because
is.
TV in America is for showing you commercials. That is it. That's what it exists
Except for the new one.
The
Yeah,
new
there's
model,
new channels.
The
There's
new model
models.
is exciting.
Yeah.
But for years, that's what it was for. And it's also by design, by committee. And stuff by
Yes.
committee tends to be bad because
Right.
it doesn't mix. So when anything great gets on TV, it's amazing.
And it's two things. It's either despite the network's best efforts and things just happened,
Yeah.
or you have a Napoleon at the
Yes.
helm who is smart and has
Yeah.
good taste and a vision that they are not going to waver from.
Right.
That is what is needed.
And that's Mary Tyler Moore.
Yes.
She had to have her like
Grant
Lucy.
Tinker,
she had
Grant
to have her-
Tinker and she together were a formidable pair.
They had the production company.
Mm-hmm.
MTM was huge, and they did stuff that wasn't just comedies and in comedies. And people forget that she wasn't just this actress on these shows. She
was a
the
producer.
business
Yeah.
person behind the stuff. But at the same time, it's almost said that she kind of had to be doing the business end in order to make
Right.
a lot of this stuff.
Right. There was, and then there were writers like James L. Brooks
Right.
who were writing, but that's also because of her and her ex-husband's taste.
Right.
And they left them alone.
Yeah.
And they fought for them when
Yep.
the network tried to interfere. Now when that happens, you can get a good show.
Yeah.
But also you can get a bad one. There are, I won't name names, but there are little Napoleons who have Emmy-winning shows and
Yes.
very popular shows that suck.
Yeah.
Who are under the impression that they're very good at.
I got my way, and it's great.
Yeah. That's just the way it is, and it's very hard to say. But that show sucks.
Yeah.
Even though it's it
But all these people
does
watch
very
it.
well.
Yeah, we'll say McDonald's
but again,
as well.
it has its person
Yeah.
at the helm who doesn't take the notes and doesn't need to
Right.
at this point.
This
but
is my way that we're doing it.
it's the only way you're going to get something is if the power of no.
Right.
Now, if it's a good note, sure, take it.
Yeah.
But rarely will it be a good note
Yeah.
because these people aren't really paying
It's a
attention.
non-creative person that's
It's a
giving you the
non-creative
note.
person who literally is just doing something because they have kids in private school and
Yeah.
a mortgage they can't handle. That's
Papa
why
needs a new pair of shoes.
that's why a lot of these shows keep going is
Yeah.
because the very top-heavy structure of the mainstream network and the mainstream studio is filled with people who spend way beyond their means.
Did you ever see? Well, America's filled with people.
Like people, yeah, but they're not making television and
yeah.
film. So.
Did you ever see a show in the late '80s called The Famous Teddy Z with John
Yes,
Cryer?
yes.
That's a really underrated show.
Yeah.
And normally I'm not huge on art about art, like shows about making shows.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like for some reason, there are definitely some prime examples of amazing versions of that, which actually I'll get to in a minute with the Mary Tyler Moore show here. But that show has an episode with, first of all, it's a show about Alex Rocco,
Mm-hmm.
who's an old, unlikable man in that show. And they sold it. They did a great bait and switch with that show because they sold it as this John Cryer vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And by the third episode, he's hardly in the show. And it's a show about Alex Rocco
Right.
as an agent in Hollywood. And there's an episode where these two people sell a show that's a documentary about orphans in El Salvador. And by the end of the episode, it's a show about a woman in a tube top with a dolphin that talks.
Right.
But as you watch it, it kind of makes perfect sense how it gets to this place.
That happens to all kinds of shows. Like the development deal, say, every comic gets offered over the years, especially in the 90s. Okay, here we're going into development, or you pitch them an idea. Yes, we love
Love
it.
it.
Yeah, you will never see the light of day. That particular idea, in that way that you pitch it, that they claimed that they liked, will never make it.
They already had something else. That
well,
they
not
were
just that. The comedy by committee starts happening, or whatever by committee, and you either take the notes or you don't. And then, unfortunately, sometimes you get talked, because I went through development with every network you can imagine, and you get bullied into by your managers and agents because they're going to get a commission.
Right. We're going to lose this deal if you don't take
notes. And really what I should have done from the very beginning of all of them was say, no, I'm not taking it.
Yeah.
It's either this or this. And oddly,
you hired me for a reason.
Well, and also, but the thing is, they didn't. They just throw enough shit against the wall. So you're not special. I'm a disposable lighter like anyone, but there is a power of no. If you, and this is something I think that Tim Allen did and Roseanne Barr did, when you say no, then they want you.
Right.
They think, uh-oh, that person.
What does she have?
Where are they taking this show then? If we don't hang on to them.
What does she know?
Or what does he know? What does she know? So once you start taking these notes, they know that they have you.
Yeah.
They know they got a sucker. And it doesn't work as well if you stop halfway through.
We don't respect anyone that kisses your ass.
It's just, it doesn't work out. But I got talked into every single time. And then unfortunately, if you get into development and you have a writing partner, and that partner's got kids or something, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Because now you're doing it because this person that you like very much, who is your partner,
needs a living,
needs to sell this, and they're desperate. They don't care about the notes and stuff like that. So what you have to do is you have to write it. You've got to stay focused on it, and either do it by yourself or have another person that isn't beholden to very understandable obligations about their family. But that gets in the way of what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. It's business getting in the way of creativity, and they're diametrically opposed forces. And I've talked to a lot of people who are on shows that they knew had gotten bad, but they're like, if I quit this show, it'd be over. And there's all these crew people, and there's all these people that have livelihoods, and I like them, and I don't. And it's a weird place to be in.
That's the only upside to bad TV. Is that people are working.
Exactly.
That's the only upside, is because the crews are always so great. That's the only way I can put a shine on it.
It's a weird position to be in.
These crews are working.
Yeah. But then you have people like Bonnie Hunt's one of my favorite people of all time, and a person who doesn't come up enough when people are talking about like great people who did.
But
things.
when you do say it though, people go, "Oh yes, she's one of the people that isn't often mentioned." But when she is, people go, yes, she's great.
She famously, and I don't know if you've heard the story, she turned down SNL several times. She turned down Designing Women at $80,000 an episode because it was no good. This was when they were flailing and everybody had quit, to be a cancer nurse for $20,000 a year.
Well, I think,
or something like that.
First of all, there's what's great about that, if these are true stories, and they may be. I'm not saying I'm in no way being critical. These may or may not be true. These type of stories go around.
They tend to inflate.
It may well be very true, and I applaud that. And I agree with sometimes like there's no value in going on a show when it's flailing.
Right.
You're not going to be happy. In the same way that getting back to the pilot thing, if you take the show's probably never going to air anyway.
Right.
Always know that going in. That 90% of pilots will never be made or never air. So why are you taking the notes?
Right.
But Bonnie Hunt, if this is true, it's the only way to live with yourself. You know, because it's not worth the money to be in any job that is chaos, that is failing, that is sinking,
and
no
you're
matter
the
what line of
public
work.
face of it, and you're going to feel the brunt, even if the awful failure had nothing to do with you. You just happen to be the person who went out and said the things that people recognize,
and it costs you in the long run because then you're associated with this flop,
failure,
and it affects your career.
Oh, absolutely.
So that affects your income too. So it's hard to see that
it's
when
like,
you have
it's hedging bets,
managers and agents breathing down your neck, or you have children to feed. But the thing is, it doesn't always work out the way you think it's going to. But then sometimes some people get super lucky. Like they get on a show that runs for a very long time and they're not bothered by content. There's a lot of great actors out there who truly, they have this way of, they
just Teflon.
They just have fun.
No one associates it with them. They're like, I love him. This show's terrible, but they're great.
They just manage, to be very good in the role that's horribly written, but they're very good, and they're not bothered particularly by the subpar writing. That is an amazing feat.
Those tend to be, I think, people that start at like character actors, and they look at acting like being a vacuum salesman or like a go to work, do my job.
They're like journeyman actors, but they also like to live well.
Yes.
That's something. So yes, A, they are journeyman actors, and B, they like
they like the
spending
lifestyle
money.
that it affords
Yes,
them. Yeah,
they do, and there's a lot of actors who truly aren't bothered by content.
Yeah.
Then there's some that they don't know that it's bad content.
Which is so much worse.
Which is terrifying when you recognize it in your coworkers.
Have I ever done that?
And
like you start wondering. Yeah.
You're like, oh, this person doesn't. They're not just being a worker bee. They're not just. They
don't know.
They don't know how truly awful.
Should I tell
this
them?
is? No, there's no point.
Yeah, they'll just be mad
because
at
you know what? They're happy and they're working hard.
It's like someone dating someone you don't like, and you're like, they're not evil.
Right.
You seem happy. I just hate them. I'm not going to mention it though, because you'll just get mad at me.
Because also. I'm the one who dislikes it, so I need to try and get out of this.
It's about me. You're happy with
I don't
this.
need to have you try and get out of this. Now, having said that, there have been shows where I have tried to ask my coworkers to stand with me when I bring something up that's particularly offensive or not funny.
I imagine that's very difficult to get them on board.
It is very hard. I have only managed to have a couple of instances where the person truly has stood firm. Then there's been times where they claim they will and they will not when it comes to it. Yeah. So I find that over the years I'll just do that by myself too.
Yeah, it's because now you have to do two things. You have to rally these people and then hope that they. Yeah, I mean I was in bands before, and being in a scene in that kind of capacity, it was people said, the rising tide helps all boats thing. And people were like, if he does well, people might say, hey, what's going on there? And so when I started doing comedy, I was like, that's how it will be. And then I'm like, that's not how it is. People it's very difficult to get people to do something they think might negatively affect them and see long-term
life,
things.
Though. Yeah. And nowhere is that more clearly played out. Then again, I hate to bring it back up, politics and culture.
Yeah.
When the stakes, like say the Iraq nonsense, try and find somebody willing to stand up and say something. Yeah. This is just John and Jane Q. Public. Oh, yeah. Take a side to stand firm. Now, if it were to affect them, if there was a draft, sure, you'd hear people say
absolutely.
something. If they had to pay extra taxes, a patriot tax, of course, then they'd say something. But it doesn't matter what you do for a living.
I really have an
There's
opinion.
nothing but cowards out there
absolutely.
in every line of work. Because I only happen to be exposed, since I started doing stand-up at 19.
Yeah, you're a public figure.
No. I was going to say only exposed to this type of work.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I haven't worked in a corporate environment.
Right. You've always, to a degree, although worked for other people, kind of been your own boss.
Only in stand-up.
In stand-up.
What I was going to say, though, I've been exposed only to specific types of work, stand-up and acting work. I mean, I used to have day jobs and stuff till I was 27, and then I could fully support myself as stand-up. But what I was going to say is there tends to be a level of obedience that's really painful to witness. But then when I'm in like courtyard Marriotts or whatever, I see the same thing in the business world. Like I see blind obedience and unhappiness and cell phone gossiping. So it's no different. It's people. It's just people.
Yeah, it's how you survive. I think a lot of people that have to do that sort of thing, and it's always it's always hard for me when I work day jobs and stuff, and HR comes in and rallies everybody up, and I'm like, fuck you, like I don't care if you make money. But then there'll be people who are like, yay, and I'm kind of like, this idiot. But then I'm also like, they need to do that to get through the day, and they're not, and they really are getting involved. So I'm like, there's a place for it, but it makes me uncomfortable, and
it makes me uncomfortable too. But it's not wrong,
right?
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
It's back to don't tell them they're happy.
Exactly. So let them do it. If you are the one that's unhappy, or I'm the one, then that's all we need to worry about.
Yeah. Solve that yourself.
Just solve it yourself and remove yourself if you can.
Yeah.
Now, removing yourself can be very, very difficult from comedy shows and from TV shows. They tell you when you're done.
Yeah.
You don't tell them. That's why I got shot in the head, by the way, in Criminal Minds. I had asked by episode 3, may I please leave? But not in I didn't want anything. Yeah. They don't believe that. That's not.
It's not you, it's me kind of.
They are very distrustful of people who just want to leave and don't want money.
Where are you going?
They won't let you go.
Yeah.
They'll kill you so that you can't come back, but that's on their terms, or
Yeah.
they'll fire you.
Yeah.
But when I even on one show offered to return my money that I had been paid already to
Yeah.
leave, still couldn't go. It's power.
Yeah.
You don't tell them when you're
Now it's a personal thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So finally, though, we got it down to just 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Because I think that they just got tired of me saying I
Bothering
can't.
you. Yeah.
And the thing is, there's so many other actors who are not bothered. Let them
Yeah.
do it.
I would love for them to do this
and
job.
I want them to do
Yeah.
it, and they will do a better job than I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they did do that after episode 6. They moved in another actor
Right.
who's very good.
And did you watch it after that? Out of curiosity.
I actually
again?
never watched I'm not saying that out of petulance. I don't watch anything that I'm in.
So you've never watched anything that you've been in?
I have watched things that are years gone by now.
Okay.
Because that's fine. But nobody needs to see themselves in HD. There are some things I have to look at for looping.
Yeah.
You for ADR.
And you see
In
it over and over and
post-production,
over
you
again.
have to see it and then sync your dialogue.
Yeah.
I hate it, and I've perfected doing it with my eyes closed to an art.
So you don't have to watch yourself?
Yeah,
Did you
I'm
just get too
very good
critical,
at
or-
looping. I'm very good at looping because I don't want to do it. I can't stand looking at myself in HD or
Yeah.
blown up on a screen, and also I second guess every choice I made.
Right. Why did I do
Why did I
that?
say that or this? And then a lot of times, for 90% of actors, 90% of what they're going to do is crap.
Yeah.
There is and also 99% of the actors union is unemployed most of the time.
Oh yeah, the average
A lot of
salary is
people-
like $2,000 a
Yeah,
year
yeah.
or something. Yeah.
So it's a very misunderstood thing.
Yeah.
There's a layer of very lucky actors who you see all the time,
Yeah.
who get to do good work with people working at the top of their intelligence. They have the protection of sustained career
Yep.
success. They are protected. They get to do good work with good people. That is 0.55%
Oh, yeah.
of the union. The rest of us, and I'm not complaining because it's elective. Nobody makes you do this, and people tend to get into it for narcissistic reasons.
But once you're in it for a long time,
You're
it's
stuck.
hard. Yeah, like you can't go and apply for a job at a front
have
desk
no-
in an
no
office.
skills.
People are going to be like, "You haven't worked in an office for 20 years," and
Exactly.
also, "Hey, we know you from that thing."
Oh no, nobody's gonna say. I'm not gonna get the "we know you."
Okay.
Not- yeah, that's
Really, you don't get that?
not very, very. It's ebbed over the years.
Okay.
And actually, that's fine.
Yeah,
it's
it's
better
probably
that
better,
way.
yeah.
And sometimes I get people who will say, "Why did you quit acting?" I'm like, "I didn't." But
I was fired from
it's
that.
it's one of those things. It's like I just don't have as visible a profile
Right.
anymore because there's just not a lot of work for middle-aged
Yeah.
women, and I didn't have that sustained career. I wasn't protected,
Right.
and I took 2.5 years off to work at Air America. That's a real.
Which you probably were really proud of that work.
I was very proud
Yeah.
of that work, but it really was a real
Took you out of the game.
a real problem.
Yeah.
And I've never recovered from it.
Yeah.
And then you don't have social media platforms, and you don't physically take care of yourself. There's all
hard to-
these
yeah,
kinds
there's
of
some
things.
things that hurt.
I don't do what it takes to.
Yeah.
I'm also not willing. I do get offered work that I would not do.
Right, and you don't do it.
Yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
do it. Luckily, I don't spend a lot of money. I live quite moderately,
Yeah.
but I've always been fiscally prudent for that reason. I got very lucky in the 90s. It was a fluke. I knew it. You know what I
You
mean?
were
I was
rare in knowing that. A lot of people-
I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
It never made sense to me at the time. I was grateful, but I felt this is fine.
You had a healthy skepticism
this
about
is,
your future.
This is fine. And I also had a heavy drinking problem.
Well, there you go.
And that didn't help either.
Yeah.
But as quickly as it started, around 1992, it ended around 2002.
Which,
really,
to
just
be fair,
capped
is a
it.
good run for most people.
It's I guess.
If you look at the averages, I mean,
Some people don't ever get the opportunities.
Yeah.
But I've been unsuccessful at it for longer than I was successful. In that things dipped around 2002. It's now
Yeah.
2015. It never picked up again, and
Yeah.
I also don't do what it takes to
Right.
to help that along. To try and help it.
But I mean, I struggle with this kind of thing all the time too. Like, I obviously, so much smaller level than you've attained and that I ever will. But I turn down a ton of stuff, and I have a reputation in Boston as like Ken turns down paid gigs and stuff. And I'm like, but that's a shit show. Like, I don't want to do that. And like, I still have a day job, and all my friends who I started with don't. But they're also really poor, and
Right.
I'm like, but you have to take every gig that gets offered you because you need money.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't have to do this guy's retirement party.
Right.
And I'm going to go do something that I feel better about. And then when I go on stage, I'm in a better head and I do a better
Exactly.
show.
I saved when I hired a very great business manager
Yeah.
who makes sure that I don't spend. But
Right.
like I said, I had a sense that there's no way they're going to let me stay. You know what I mean? I felt like,
How did
how
this
did I
happen?
get in here?
Yeah.
How did I, in around 92 until 2002, how am I being allowed
to do
to
this.
do these things? Like, people are putting me in movies. You know what I mean? Like people.
Yeah,
people-
but that's very, very unusual that you had that awareness. I mean, one point too. A friend of mine, he coined this phrase as Hollywood poor, which is a thing that we see all the time in LA, where it's people who did very well for a short amount of time, had cash, bought a house, and then basically are just struggling to pay the tax on it. They don't have any
Right.
other bills. So you go to their house and it's a beautiful house, but it's frozen in 1998.
Right.
And they have a big screen TV from 1998.
They're house poor.
Yes. Or like my friend Shane Moss, I don't know if you know Shane Moss, he goes, I have to hike in these $500 Prada boots that I got for free on a shoot because I don't have any other boots.
Right.
And it's this Hollywood poor
There's
thing.
a lot of well, actually, there's a lot of people like that in life. That's why so many foreclosures and things
Yeah.
across country, plus a rigged system
Yeah,
and a
absolutely.
very
Yeah.
duplicitous
You're making
predatory
money
lending
off of the transaction.
Yeah.
Not
There's
the,
people
yeah.
that didn't want to see
Yeah.
what seemed too good to be true
Right.
with their homes.
Yeah.
Understandably, they wanted to start. Some people think that's how you start your life. I don't know why, but they do. I have no interest in buying a home.
Yeah.
But I keep it small. You know what I mean? Like I keep my expenses down, stuff. I even did then. Now, granted, I have blown money here and there where I shouldn't have on
But it's a balance,
on certain things,
like the boat.
yeah, like the boats.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I don't have any.
She
boats.
arrived at the show today in a helicopter, everybody, with
Yeah.
her face on
and,
the side.
and my helicopter.
Yeah.
But I don't have. I live in New York. Don't have a car.
Yeah.
I live in a 1-bedroom apartment that I own. I bought it in '94. I don't have. I don't go buy great clothes or
Yeah.
anything like that.
You're not splurging.
I would say I overspend on my dogs.
But you get
because
your
they're
soul's satisfied
I love them.
from that, though, you know?
They're my babies. But be that as it may, I don't have to take
yeah.
work. And having said that, I wish I could work more.
Yeah.
I would like to.
You want to be able to
It would
say
be
no to
nice.
more things and pick
It would
yeah.
be nice to. I wouldn't say no to good things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like I'm being.
It'd be
offered
nice if there
very
was more
things.
good things.
It would be nice if I was able to have access to
Yeah.
that kind of opportunity, which
Yeah.
I don't. A lot of actors do not have access to certain opportunity.
Yeah.
Some people don't buy that. Some people say you make your own. Blah blah blah.
No, you
That's
don't,
not
though.
true.
Because the money that it requires to make these things means that it has to be controlled by a small amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously everyone's not going to have access to that.
Right.
It just couldn't work that way.
Right.
As much as it should. I mean, so you said 92, that's the year the Ben Stiller show started?
Well, at 92, I was on Larry Sanders and Ben Stiller simultaneously.
Because the first thing I remember seeing you on was MTV Half Hour Comedy
Yeah,
Hour.
that
It
was
must have been
before
90
that.
or 91.
That was probably 90.
I think you were doing material about 90210.
Oh God, that was the young comedian. That might have been
Comedian special.
the.
Tori Spelling's little butt.
Ugh, I am embarrassed.
remember.
I hate thinking about stand up I was doing
Because
when
it
I
was
was
pop culture related,
Yeah,
or just like
not just that, but I mean, as anyone would. When you're say, there's. Thank God it wasn't a surveillance society back
Yeah.
then.
It's like
but there,
looking at prom pictures
there
or
is,
something.
yeah, there is footage of me doing stand up at 19,
Yeah.
at 22. There's things I wouldn't. I'm 51. You know what I mean? Like
well, it's people watching you practice. It's like if you had a
Yeah.
band and they had tapes of you doing
Exactly.
guitar scales. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
like, this isn't
I'm
a
not.
good one.
I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable.
I'm
You know what
practicing.
I mean? I'm
Yeah.
saying hacky stuff. It's painful, and also I'm saying stuff like, I cared about that. Then I would.
Yeah,
You know.
but I mean,
just
I remember
normal.
that stood out to me seeing you on MTV Half Hour Comedy Hour, and you were. I used to watch it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and there were very few comedians that I went, yes, I like this.
Oh my gosh,
I
I'm
like that point of
surprised.
view, and you were one of those people though. And I remember one of the reasons I watched the Ben Stiller show was because I recognized you and I recognized Bob Odenkirk from SNL. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a good show. It's got these two people that I've seen on
Oh,
things.
thanks.
And so it, you never know what people are traveling with you on these things.
Right.
So you did Larry Sanders in that the same year?
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Like this thing happened in '92. And I didn't understand it. I still don't. Both of them came out of stand up. Gary
Right.
Shandling and Ben Stiller I knew through stand up.
Yep.
And because they cast me without having to audition, I hadn't.
Yeah.
Acted.
Which is a very
I
pure
wasn't an
way to get a
actor.
thing. Yeah.
And I also got lucky with those two in that I got to, Gary Shandling especially. He was like, this has to be very natural.
Yeah.
If you want to change the lines each time,
Because we're casting you.
right.
Yeah.
So, but actually, that wasn't me. I was asked to. That's another misunderstanding, which had I been smarter, I wouldn't have taken roles where I was playing a similar character.
Yeah.
My character was based on a real person who had worked at David Letterman.
Right.
Behind the scenes, because it was sort of based on behind the scenes
Right,
David
right.
Letterman. I was asked to be surly like Paula, the person I played. I guess was a real pill. Put it that way.
Yeah. A pillow.
So I was asked to behave that way.
Yeah.
That is not me. Has never been
No.
me. Then, unfortunately, I wasn't smart, and I was offered, okay, do that in this.
You do that,
Do
great.
that in
Do
this.
this and all
do
these
this
things.
and do
Yeah.
this. And then what happens
Now
is
you're that person.
you're typecast, classified, put aside, blame, and then
Yeah.
what you were asked to do, you did. That's my fault.
We're
for
not a
keep on
Jean
doing
Garofalo
it.
type.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, I'm not like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about with access to opportunity. A lot of the doors that are closed to me is because people think
You can't do a
I
thing.
do one thing.
Right.
And then I will say, please let me read for you. Please.
I'm a general contractor. I can build this thing.
If I fail in the audition,
Yeah.
that's fine. You know, I would very much like to audition for you, because of course I wouldn't do that character.
Yeah. It doesn't fit in this
way.
thing. Yeah.
First, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I also.
That's not how
That's
acting
not
works.
Yeah, I would do it the way that you wrote
Yeah.
it, and then hopefully try and bring something interesting
Right.
to it in addition to that. No.
Yeah.
That's what I mean about access to opportunity. There's
You
peop-
can't convince them.
I cannot. They won't. Whoever they are.
Yeah.
I'm having difficulty and have had difficulty over the last few years. And again, don't misunderstand me. This sounds like I'm complaining, and I realize this is elective, and
No, but
nobody's
it's the
forced to. I'm
reality
just
of the
telling you
thing.
what the
Yeah.
reality
Your
is.
fate's not in your hands to a lot of.
It
to a
really
lot.
isn't.
Yeah.
It
And it's
really
like if
isn't.
you're interviewing for a job and you have a resume and they go, "Look, we see that when you were in high school, you worked at Caldor department
Yeah.
store. This is a financial institution, and we think you did a great job at Caldor. It's really not Caldor,
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you're like, "But I've done others. Yeah, we're looking for someone who worked at this financial institution already,
Right. And then there's another thing where what's calculated is profitability.
Right.
And they, unfortunately,
And
because
now a
it
lot
is
of
a
that is your
business.
Twitter followers, and they
Right.
because it used to be, what was that number they called it, like the media number?
Well, there's a Q rating.
Q rating. That's what I was thinking. of, yeah.
Which is a little bit different. They have a thing now where they say, well, when my agent tries to beg on my behalf, can she come in and read for you? They'll say, when was the last time she was in a film and how much did that movie make? And it'd be unfortunately
Yeah.
well, she's done all these indie films.
Yeah.
I have done movies
But they want
recently
dollars and
that no
cents.
one will ever see by, bring your own jeans from home
Right.
type of thing.
But you probably really enjoyed the movie. Like, you did good movies.
I enjoyed the work.
Right.
They are
Sometimes
no
the result.
better. They were no better, most of them, than any
Right.
other crappy film. It's just that somebody's parents are broke now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's these people that just want to be a director, I think for the sake of saying they're a director.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And they bankrupt their parents.
Yeah.
And they make terrible independent films that no one will ever see.
Yeah. Just because they're indie doesn't mean they're great.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
There is nothing but shitty indie
Yeah.
films out there
'Cause-
that luckily we don't see.
Right. Well, we have a world now where everyone has access to the tools that
Yes.
it used to have to be a very elite group of people to have access
Right.
to, which is good because some people who never would have been able to make a thing
Yeah.
can make some great stuff, but the majority of
Right.
it is not good.
And that's some of the only avenues open to me to work. And what's good about that kind of situation, though, is everybody works really hard. Everybody
Yeah.
does pull together on these, and you meet some great people. So I
Right.
like that. What I don't like is how hard everybody's working for how terrible
such a little
it is,
return,
and it'll
yeah.
never be seen. It's
Yeah.
almost like ants moving rocks around.
Right.
But the silver lining there is people are doing something.
Right. They're working. The
they're-
crew that you like is
and
working.
the crew and they're trying to make it good.
It's sincere.
Yeah, it is all sincere.
Yeah.
That's
If
right.
someone sincerely tries to make something and it's a failure or it's terrible, I have no problem with it. Then if somebody tries to make something that they think people want to see,
That happens too.
which is how a lot of these things happen. I mean, this Mary Tyler Moore show that we have on the cover here was her making a show that she liked, and it's not good, and it's her experience in it's the Mary Tyler Moore Hour, and back to shows that are about the behind the scenes, which Larry Sanders did great. It was almost a proto version of that. She played a character named Mary who had a variety show, and the first half hour of the show was the behind the scenes single camera variety show, making the variety show, getting the guests, writing, and all the backstage stuff. The second half was the shot on video 3 camera variety show.
Gosh, why do I have no recollection of this?
Because it was 8 episodes. People hated it. And it was the first job Michael Keaton had on television.
I love Michael Keaton.
It was right after he was doing stand-up, and he played like the page at the studio. And Mary Tyler Moore was clearly like really into the show. She wanted to do singing and all this stuff she doesn't get to do on TV. And she hired all these great actors from vaudeville and from the 40s to be on the show. And it's not good. It just isn't a great show.
And I just read, I must have just read this because I read a number this last year. I read Difficult Men, which is about the second golden age of television. It's about Tom Fontana and Matthew Weiner and
all the showrunner people.
The showrunner people. And then I read a book about the making of Mary Tyler Moore, MTM.
Yep.
And there was interviews with James L. Brooks and the other writers of the time. And for some reason, this is not sticking out in my mind, but that must have been mentioned.
It was such a short-lived thing, and it was supposed to be her big return. And she had a show called Mary in 1985 that also wasn't great, but was her making. I think this show, obviously I don't know Mary Tyler Moore, but this show I think burned her because this was the show that she said, this is exactly what I want to do. People like what I do, and this is me, and all firing all cylinders.
Well, she got Ordinary People is what helped a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
When she went against type,
people did not think that she could do that.
And that was one of those things where you hear like, I didn't want to hire her. I didn't want to hire her.
Well, she was against type. Weirdly, people wouldn't believe this now, but when she was on Dick Van Dyke, because they were like, she's too young, she's too pretty, she can't be the funny wife. They wanted like a mumsy type, like let's laugh at her, kind of dowdy, and they're like, no one's gonna think she's funny, and so.
But actually, it was Rob Reiner and Dick Van Dyke who went to bat for her.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's had nothing but success to a degree when she's gone against type. But Mary, her 85 show was her kind of. It's almost sad to watch because you're like, she's doing a show that she thinks people want to see Mary Tyler Moore do.
It's like when Lucille Ball did a couple of other
It's
shows.
Lucy and Here's Lucy, but she was also at her most terrifying at that age.
Yeah, she's the best on Match Game.
Yes.
73 and 74 when she's kind of drunk.
Yeah.
And then Password when she's drunk.
Have you seen, she made a made-for-TV movie, one of her last roles, called Stone Pillow.
Yes, Stone Pillow. I
Yes.
still use, to this day, I say, oh, he's sleeping rough. Stone Pillow. I will say that
Pillow.
when I still see people who are, let's say, between jobs and between homes.
Yes.
Shall we put it that way?
Yeah.
I always think
Stone Pillow. No one. You're the only other person I've ever met that's seen Stone Pillow. Maybe Lucille Ball's finest. Did you ever see Look Well?
Oh my God! I even got to be at a live table read through of Look Well.
Fantastic.
It was like going to heaven.
One of my favorite lines is when
Stone Pillow.
Adam West playing
says
a homeless pillow. And he goes, "I have it at home. Sidewalk's my pillow."
Yeah, and he just says it tossed off
Yep.
as he's walking out.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I quote all of the. It sounds like I just do nothing but quote things about homeless people.
Look Well is one of the greatest.
Look Well is a show that, for people that don't know, Conan O'Brien and Robert Smigel kind of got obsessed with Adam West in the early to mid 90s. It was born 97, 98, somewhere around there.
No. It's earlier than that. They did a table read through of it, and
I feel like it was around the same time as Heat Vision and Jack, right?
No, that was after Heat Vision and Jack. This was around 90. I think I was at that read-through in 92 or 93.
So it's pre-Conan O'Brien show. It's when Conan was still on SNL.
Yes.
And so they wrote this pilot, and it's sort of a parody show of like Columbo or Banachek and these 70s cop shows that we all grew up with Adam West as just a really inept actor who played a 70s cop.
Who still keeps trying to
actually be a crime fighter. Because there's a really weird phenomenon in the 80s where you got all of these shows where people were a job and also fought crime. It was like just this bizarre thing. No one ever slept. They also fought crime. And Midnight Caller is the one that I always reference. And my favorite one ever is Baywatch Nights.
Do you remember Magruder and Loud?
Yes. There was a bunch of British ones too that tried to be American shows, like Dempsey and Makepeace.
Speaking of, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, audience, but have you heard of a British action series called The Professionals?
Yes. 70s.
I've got the box set of it.
You're nicked.
Oh my God.
Put your pants on. You're nicked.
It is the best.
Yeah.
It is the best war show.
70s, tough guy.
And then now, that actor, one of the actors, Doyle, I believe, is wonderful on George Gently on PBS.
Did you see Life on Mars?
Yes.
That was basically them doing like a meta version of The Professionals. It was like, what if a modern cop got dropped into The Professionals?
Right, but Life on Mars was far better.
Oh, yeah.
But the American version was the worst.
Oh, when they made it all
you could blow
sci-fi
it-
at the
when
end.
You
Oh,
can
what's
fucking
that?
blow something.
Yeah.
First of all, why redo it? It
Well,
was
they
great.
very rarely made good versions of
I know.
UK shows. Did you ever see the Young Ones US pilot?
No, I haven't.
Awful. Young Ones is maybe one of my favorite shows of all time.
I love it, but it doesn't hold up as I look at
It's
it.
very 80s.
Very
80s.
It's not even that. It's just not as funny as I felt like I thought it was when I was a kid. But I respect it. Although I do love the Quiz Bowl one still.
Oh, yes.
as much.
Bambi is that episode. Yes.
When the guy sticks
Yes.
his foot through the bottom.
Yes. Yeah.
Love that one.
And he loses his head on the way
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that show was just, that blew my mind as a kid because I couldn't believe they made that show.
Yeah,
But they did a US remake, and the only person from the UK cast that they held on to was Nigel Planer as Neil, who's maybe the least, I love him on the show,
Yeah,
but he's
he's
the
sort
least
of like
dynamic
the
person
least
on that show.
interesting.
They made a US version of Fawlty Towers with B. Arthur in the Basil Fawlty role.
Although that sounds like it could
Could have
worked.
worked. They fucked it up big time.
Right.
So then they tried to do it again, and this time they go, the problem here is the Basil Fawlty character. So they made a version of Fawlty Towers as a pilot with no Basil Fawlty, just about a hotel. It's one of the worst things
That's-
I've ever seen.
Hot Ale Baltimore.
Yeah. Awful.
They keep trying to remake I'm Alan Partridge too,
Yeah,
which
you
can't be
do.
done.
It's a
Can't be
very
done.
British character.
Well, also
It's
just,
Coogan.
Just show Steve.
Yeah.
Show it here.
Yeah.
Steve Coogan is just a genius. He's
Absolutely.
just absolutely
He's
brilliant, and that's why
great.
I'm disappointed with Happy-ish.
Yeah.
He's much
Yeah.
better than the show is. Actually.
I liked Saxondale. which
Saxondale's
people didn't
fantastic.
Get onto.
It's because it's tragic.
There's a sadness to everything
There's
he
a
does, and you
yeah.
can't do that with comedies here. It's changing, I think.
You can.
People just won't like
but
it.
it's just that it's very hard. I love Saxondale, but I got to admit I prefer watching I'm Alan Partridge.
It's easier to laugh at Alan Partridge because you don't like him. Saxondale you
But
feel
Saxondale
bad
is
for. He
compassion.
seems like a good guy.
He's complex.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the work. I mean, when you
Yeah.
look at the work, Steve Coogan to me is like taking a master class in.
Oh yeah, I mean he's great in everything.
And
you
I don't mean
watch.
to slag off Happy-ish, but I feel like the show's not up to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like up to where I feel like there's something about it that's good. I see these moments that are very
Yeah.
good in it, and then I see moments that are just too mainstream TV for E.
You were on Ideal.
Yes,
Graham Duff's
Ideal.
show, right?
How did you know that?
I'm a big UK comedy
Because I was going
guy.
to say they made an American
Yeah.
version of that, which
Did
was
they?
terrible.
I would imagine that'd be terrible because Johnny Vegas is just.
No, they made it with attractive young people.
That's
for
not the
Fox.
show. That's not the show.
Boy, I loved being on Ideal, and when that got canceled, I can't tell you. I was not only is it great to work
Yeah.
in for the BBC,
Yeah.
for BBC Three
And
especially.
did you ever see Graham Duff's Dr. Terrible's House of Horrible he did with Steve Coogan?
I probably have because
It's-
I know Dr. Terrible's House of Horrible.
It's
I have
really
the
good.
Coogan box set too. and everything.
You would enjoy it.
And I love Coogan's Run.
Yeah. So this is September. It's 1978.
Yes.
You're 14 years old. Where we started with
Yes,
here.
or this week.
This week you're turning
week,
14.
I'm turning 14.
Becoming a woman.
Yes,
yes.
but I was a young 14. Put it that
Do you
way.
have siblings?
I do.
Okay. Are you like in the middle?
I
or-
am. There is 3 and then 2 more after, but different.
Did you have to negotiate what you would watch before you got this TV in your room?
Yes.
Okay.
And we also were only allowed to watch a certain amount on school nights.
Was
so
it
we
very
had to pick.
kept track of? So you,
Yes.
so you really had to value that
Yes.
time. And we were talking before we recorded too about like when you go through and you circle the things, when your time is limited,
Yeah.
I think you hang on to these shows for a lot longer. And when I talk to people our age, or, we have this real passion for these
Mm-hmm.
shows we watched as kids. And younger people don't have that now that
Mm-hmm.
I've encountered because they can watch whatever they want, whenever they want,
Right.
on their phone or whatever. And the access, which is amazing, it's kind of not appreciated.
But
in
then
the
there's
same
that
way.
passion that exists for shows like Grey's Anatomy,
Yeah.
where when Patrick Dempsey's
I can't
character
believe that show's
gets
still on.
I know it's a shock,
Yeah.
but Patrick Dempsey's character gets taken off the show, and there's this hue and cry. There is
Right.
that passion there still,
But it's not
for
the-
shows. It's just different.
Yeah, it's a different group. I mean, it's not all people because there's more choices now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when there was a major change in a cast on a show, on a network show when we were growing up, everybody knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
People would talk about it who never even seen the show.
Right. It was also like a national, like when McLean Stevenson's character was very callously killed.
Yes.
And that impacted me as a child in a way I can't describe to you. I did not expect it.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready. And also on All in the Family, when Edith is sexually assaulted, I was absolutely
believe
ill
it.
prepared
Yeah.
to process that information, and it seemed terribly out of place And the McLean Stevenson killing was sheer mean spiritedness.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have, but it had this dramatic impact
Absolutely.
on the people watching it because it was unusual. And then
It's a trust
on Good
thing.
Times,
Yeah.
John Amos's character was
Yes.
killed.
Yeah.
Again, for mean-spirited
Yeah.
reasons.
He did not get along well with that.
That's unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, I always the story I've told before that I love Valerie Harper. Speaking of,
Yeah, me too.
Love her, and she was in the Hogan Family, which
I
is
do
Valerie,
remember,
her
yeah.
show. She was her show.
Valerie
she was the producer.
Family.
Valerie. She goes, look, I want some more money as a producer. They killed her on the show, but as a kid, I think I was 10 years old. I tune in. I'm going to watch Valerie.
And
All of a
Sandy
sudden,
Duncan.
Sandy Duncan. I'm like, where's Valerie? A minute into the show, they don't mention it, and then Bateman goes, things haven't been the same since Mom died in the car crash, and I'm like, what the hell
That's
has
just
happened?
purely the egos and the pettiness of a handful of
Yeah.
network people who don't care how
And the viewer
you,
suffers. They don't think about
the
it.
viewer. Now I was older than that then. I didn't
Yeah.
watch Valerie's Family,
Yeah.
but I
I
know
would not
of
have
it,
expected you to.
and I remember that happened. But when such things happen where they callously do that, that is a network executive flexing their muscle over
Yes.
that particular actor, much to the chagrin of the viewing audience.
They don't realize the connection people have.
They don't care. They don't
Yeah.
watch it. I'll tell you another secret about these network
They're not watching it.
nonsense. They do not watch these shows.
Well, that's the thing as a kid too. When there's not as many shows that are long running anymore, or scripted shows. You know, you have like SNL and News and stuff. So Grey's Anatomy being on for like 10 seasons is crazy. And shows like Supernatural have been on like 12 seasons. But when we were growing up, if you had watched a show, if you're 10 years old and you've watched a show for 5 or 6 years, that's your whole life.
Yeah, yeah.
You've known this show forever, and when they kill a character, it really
means something.
You've lost a person you know.
And even if you haven't, if you're a kid, just say from a child's
Yeah.
perspective, even if it hasn't been 10 years, say a child had only watched one season
Yeah.
of
That's a lot
Valerie's
of time.
Family, that's something strange to them, that things have been different since Mom died.
Yeah.
But to the person who made the decision to do that, it could have been the head writer. It could have been.
they don't think
a
about
network-
impact.
They do not care.
To them, it's like firing a guy at Denny's.
But they just want to send a message
Yeah.
to that one guy.
Yeah.
And so that's that.
Yeah.
And everybody else can go to hell.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of that's
met,
business.
I met her at a local TV station I was working at, and I was like her, I was like a PA basically. Super nice. We talked about Freebie and the Bean and Second
Freebie and the
City
Bean.
and
San Pedro Beach.
Yes, best car chase ever. And she's super nice. I'm with her all day, and then we're waiting for something at the end of the day, and I start talking about Valerie's Family, and I inadvertently just start welling up like a maniac, because I didn't realize it like affected me that much, and she just like hugged me, and it was the single most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. I was like, what a sweet lady, and what a goo. Like I'm just like,
I'm sure she thought it was a very sweet
but
moment
it was
too.
such a weird thing that you don't realize has this
Right.
you hold with you sometimes.
Well, and also they have a hold on you for things you don't even fully understand.
Right. Right.
You can't quite put your finger on. Or
And I wonder if
articulate.
people still have that connection with these shared experiences. So
I'm sure they do. We just- how
don't
would-
know what they
how would
are.
we know?
Exactly, and that's probably a good thing.
So here we are. I'm going through. I'm
Clock.
grabbing the 28th.
Grab the 28th. So on your birthday,
Yes.
What would you do when a typical birthday? What was like a thing? Would it be like it's your?
I can tell you. I can tell you what I got to pick for dinner. And I would always ask for macaroni and cheese with cut up hot dogs because
Nice.
my mom made excellent macaroni and cheese
Yep.
with cut up hot dogs.
My grandfather used to make that, but he put peas in it.
I'll take it. I
But
love peas.
I'd have that now, but at the time it ruined it.
Oh, I love peas.
Yeah.
Never thought of that.
Yeah, you put some frozen peas in there.
Enjoy peas. And then for dessert, we would get a Carvel ice
Nice.
cream
Fudgy the Whale?
cake. No, that's why would you get Fudgy the Whale for your birthday? No, it would just be the
regular
vanilla
one?
with just a round cake with the crushed up cookie.
Yeah, I would insist on a cookie puss.
Cookie opus.
Cookie puss that, and then the Father's Day tie cake that was just
yeah.
cookie puss upside down. That was
It's the
bullshit.
same. It's the same.
Same mold.
Tray
Yeah.
mold. Yeah, they just had the one mold.
When I was in 11th grade, for some reason in biology class, I brought up cookie puss, and kids thought I was making it up and like it was a dirty thing.
Why?
I have no idea. Carvel's had kind of fallen out of favor. I was like, no, cookie puss, it's
Really?
great. Yeah.
You've got to be kidding, because that was a huge, and it was also like a
Commercials were
joke.
also- yeah.
And there's commercials.
So they were like,
Carvel
that's
ice.
not a real thing. And so the teacher, filed this away. This is on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Monday we come into class, and this teacher, this woman, Miss Easton, she actually died this year. It was very nice. And I was like a weird kid, and all the kids hated me. I'd hang out in the teacher's lounge. We come into class. She's like, people, I have a very special announcement for everybody. This weekend I stopped at a Carvel, and I picked up a cookie puss. And she's like, and you can all have a piece if you apologize to Ken. And so kids would come and be like, sorry, Ken. And then you get a cookie puss. It was very weird.
I find that those kids were taking a false opposition just to be bullies.
It's quite possible.
There's no way that not one other kid in that class knew about.
Where was their
Cookie
youth?
Puss.
No cookie puss?
I just don't. I find that I feel like they were just being coy with you.
I think they were cookie puss deniers.
I think there was much
Yeah.
like the Armenian genocide.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so here we are, Thursday, September 28th, 1978.
Pre-must-see TV.
Okay, so this is the morning. So let's go. Oh, the reruns of Partridge Family on in the morning. Okay, but we'll go into Tic-Tac-Toe.
Tic-Tac-Toe was fantastic.
We're gonna go to after school. Where after school, although I did extracurriculars sometimes. So maybe I should start with nighttime when I had to project
After the homework.
Colonel Flag.
Yes.
Colonel Flag from MASH, hilarious.
Did you watch MASH all the time?
I did watch, and Colonel Flag being a particular favorite.
Had you seen
Mork
the
and
movie?
Mindy never really got into.
No, all of the Gary Marshall shows never really did much for me.
Well, some did. Happy Days, the first season, fantastic.
But that's a totally different show.
It's a different show on film.
I
and
always bring this up.
with Rock Around the Clock as
Yeah,
a theme.
and then it became a 3-camera sitcom that it wasn't even in the 50s anymore.
Right. And well, it was okay for up to about season 2 or 3, and then
Yeah.
Chuck. They had 2 different Chucks,
Yeah.
and then no Chuck.
Yeah, it never explained it.
Never explained it. Be that as it may, What's Happening, I used to watch.
Yeah. Did you ever watch What's Happening
So-
Now?
Yes, but not regularly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just would see it. Okay, so Barney Miller.
Barney
I
Miller is
watched
my
that.
all-time favorite sitcom, and I think that anyone who wants to write TV should have to watch Barney Miller.
Okay, he said you heard it here, folks.
Because it's
Okay.
just people in a room talking. It's a pure writer's show.
It's very good. All right, so let's start at 8:00. Waltons.
So you did watch the Waltons?
I did. Not all the. It depends on
Yeah,
what the
that's the
picking has to
Goodnight
be.
John Boy.
But it depends on what season
Okay.
we were into. Okay, so this is Jim Bob's infatuation with the Baldwin sisters' house guest upsets some on the mountain. The girl was in a convent and is trying to decide whether to return. Now, I don't know exactly what year this would be, 78, but I do remember watching the Christmas special with Patricia Neal all the time.
Yes.
This, I probably wouldn't have watched the Waltons that night, and I wouldn't have watched Project UFO.
Have you met nuns frequently in your life?
Well, at Providence College, yes.
Well, yeah, okay.
I was taught by Dominican friars and nuns.
Aside from that 4 years,
Yeah.
they come up a lot in TV plots for the number of times I've actually encountered a nun. So people go to convents, nuns who are like, I don't think I want to be a nun. Like the nuns and the Amish are in way more TV shows than.
Well, I guess
you
it
think.
depends on where you live, because a lot of people are exposed to, depending on their educational background,
True, and like
Catholicism, and also
yeah.
generationally speaking.
True.
And then if you live in Pennsylvania Dutch country, you will see Amish. How many bank heist films are? How many
That's
bank
true.
robbers?
Well,
do you
Boston, we
have?
do have a lot of those.
That's a coincidence, though. That's an
Weirdly,
aberration.
it's usually
okay.
Amish
Family
nuns.
for sure.
Is that the first show with a gay character?
Family was a really ahead of its time, interesting, dramatic,
It was like
unhappy,
yeah.
ennui producing hour.
It was not a wish fulfillment show.
I loved it. I loved Christy McNichol. Now, by the time this is 78, they've got Quinn Cummings, who I like very much, but this shows you that the show was dipping.
Yeah.
Although I love Quinn Cummings, and she's wonderful in The Goodbye Girl, but this is when this show was flailing.
Yeah.
But the show intrigued me because it showed a portrait of a type of family that seemed as sad as many of the families that I can identify with seemed, but in a quiet way.
Yeah.
Do-
You weren't
does that make
laughing
sense?
at them or like I always I
There's nothing to laugh at in
no.
family.
I equate this with comedies because like Roseanne to me is the blue collar family with the gallows humor that I identify with the most. And they might lose their house, they lost their business, horrible things happen, and that show seems very natural. And then you look at Married with Children, which I call a poverty minstrel show or Poor Face, because they're like, we're gonna carve up this lima bean field,
yeah.
and you're laughing at them. And so a show like Family, which is sort of a realistic drama about a family instead of a Dallas, type
Right.
soap.
It was it had a quality like The Ice Storm.
Right.
The movie The Ice Storm, which is certainly much
Yeah.
later, but it
very
captures a
quiet.
type of middle class
Tri-state.
sadness.
Yeah.
That is not usual for
Yeah.
television then or now.
Yeah.
And this is another thing about my mother that stood out, and I think why Family stands out for me, not just because of Christy McNichol,
Right.
but who I loved on Apple's Way.
And
where I
Little
was a-
Darlings,
Do
one of
you
the
remember
creepiest
Apple's
movies of all
Way?
time. Yes.
Okay. My mom responded very much. Also, I would notice her responding to the show Family because of the realities of there's certain things that just don't work out
Right.
for people.
As an adult.
I'm in no way saying, I'm saying it's just, I'm sure everyone can identify with this, but there are times where, say, marriages are not working that great, or what's going on with your children is not that great.
Human things.
These human things that happen to everybody, they happened also in my family. And there's something about the sadness that Seda Thompson portrayed that reached my mother.
It's a catharsis, too.
It was a catharsis of
You're seeing
sorts.
your life on TV in a non-exploitive way.
And in a way that I don't think my mother could have articulated.
Right.
And that also Seda Thompson's character I don't think could articulate.
Yeah.
And also to look at it, it's like, what are they complaining about?
Yeah.
Look at that nice house.
Yeah.
You know?
But there's and probably someone from your mother's generation, because I don't think parents talk to kids about the adult things that were going on.
Not at all.
And so it's an interesting way to sort of expose you to those, what they're going
Well,
through.
my
in a way
parents
that-
were 19. It was 1958.
Yeah.
They were 19 when they had my brother, and they got married.
Which is
'Cause she got
crazy
pregnant.
now if you think of a
That's-
19-year-old.
Well, actually, there probably is lots of 19-year-olds, just not in the circles that you and I
That's true.
tend to travel
Yeah.
in. I don't mean that in a
But if I
class
think of
warrior
myself
way.
when I was 19.
Oh, no
you know
way.
what I mean?
No way.
Yeah.
I still don't want to be married.
No,
but be that as it may, it wasn't unusual, and it was not
Yeah.
unusual in 1958. But I think what happens is, and then cut to more kids and more kids.
Yeah.
And my mom was a secretary, and while she was a very good parent, but both my parents committed. They loved us and did everything they could to. Now that this is what it is.
Yeah.
They
They weren't blaming, like,
No.
I got stuck with this burden. It's
No,
like,
no,
oh, hey,
not
it
at all.
happened. We get these kids. Let's
They-
do the best thing we can do.
Exactly, and one of my siblings had a lot of problems, neurological problems, stuff like that. Just what I'm saying is
Made it difficult.
Made things difficult. Something about that show and Seda Thompson's depression, I think, spoke to my mother. Now I don't know this for sure. I never discussed it with her.
You would watch it with your mom and watch her watch it?
watch it, and I think that's why that show resonates.
That's how you learned about your parents then. How they were, like, back
When
to
they
the
laughed.
laughing.
Yeah,
And when they
exactly.
were sad,
Right.
you pick up on these things and go, what is it
That's
about
right.
this?
You're right.
And especially with your mom being gone, you probably
Yeah.
could rewatch the show and feel like you're kind of getting
And this was
into
around
her.
the time when
Right.
some of the last.
So you're kind of getting into her mindset without being
Yeah.
able to talk to her, which is interesting.
And here we moving on, because that was a pretty heavy.
Sorry about
pretty
that.
heavy.
We will
No,
have-
no, no,
thank
no.
you, TV Guide.
I brought it up, and also I'm not one of those people like, oh, see, we can't
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
it's
No,
just,
I'll talk
it's
about
just
anything.
what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just what happens. People
But
pass
that's-
away and whatever.
That's the interesting thing about pop culture too, is that you're back to, you're just doing a job and you fire somebody, you don't have any impact. It becomes part of people's lives with television because it comes into their home and it's a shared experience that they have with their family. And so they attach these things to
Right.
it you could never possibly imagine.
Right.
And so that's why, if people dismiss a work they did, if it means something to anybody, it's kind of like they're happy why tell them.
Right, exactly. That is, because there is sometimes where people say, oh, I loved this thing. And I'm like,
That sucks.
oh, should I say how much I thought it was horrible?
Yeah.
Why? Why would
Yeah.
you do it?
It's hard.
Soap I would watch intermittently.
Right.
Barnaby Jones I didn't, but I'm certainly very well aware.
Not a huge Barnaby Jones guy.
Web I did not, or WEB.
Yeah.
Did not. Family. There
Yep,
it is.
Family, very
okay.
big.
Gosh, now we're at 10:30, so that I would have to be in bed. But I may have had the little set in my room
And you'd
at this
sneak.
point. So if I was going to sneak, which I would do occasionally, Twilight Zone. Here
Yep.
it says here on the affiliate. Also, late night. I would watch Johnny Carson sometimes. Definitely in the summer, we were allowed to do that sometimes.
Yeah, which was such a treat. Again, it meant so much more. Because
Right.
you're like, I
It
never
was-
get to do this, so I'm going to
And we could put our sleeping bags down.
Yep.
I loved that when
I
my
love a
siblings
sleeping
and
bag.
the sleeping bags. Something
sleeping bag in
about
front
it.
of the TV. I will admit this. People who know me would not be shocked by this, but if I see a sleeping bag like on clearance, I'll buy it. And sometimes, like in the winter, we'll just sit on the floor and watch
Oh,
TV in a
we do
sleeping
too.
bag.
Me and Pete.
Yeah.
The sleeping bags. We love it.
It's a real treat.
It
I don't know what it
really
is. You're like,
is.
I'm enjoying this so much more.
There was a while. This is many years ago. This is probably when I was like 34. I bought a tent and sleeping bags in my
Yeah.
apartment.
It's just kind of fun.
I thought it would be fun. The novelty wore off after
Yeah.
a while, but I was like, you know what? This is going to be fun for my boyfriend and I.
Yeah.
It's a tent, and we have 2 sleeping bags. We're going to watch TV.
Yeah. No, something about that. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
And in the winter especially.
Yeah. It's just you're cocooning and cozy. Yeah.
Okay, so in summation, wrapping things up, I think I would pretty much be asleep by now.
Final.
If I could have made it through Johnny Carson.
Yeah, which could be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I think I'd be asleep.
Final question for you then,
Yeah.
because I could talk about SCTV for hours and hours and hours, and I think it's such an underrated,
It
amazing
is
sketch show.
wonderful.
What is your? It may be difficult. What is your all-time favorite SCTV sketch that stands out when you think of like your favorite SCTV things?
I love. Oh man, it is
It's
hard.
tough.
I because there was long running narratives.
Well, the show's a
through lot of
world
this.
building show. And
yeah.
it pays off if you watch for a long
I
time.
of course love Bobby Bittman.
Yeah.
I love when Skip Bittman came on and brought
Maudlin's
the
11.
giant reel-to-reel tape
Yeah.
recorder to tape his
Yeah.
stand-up set. And I love when Bobby Bittman keeps getting interrupted by Bob Hope, and he's got the
Yeah.
giant phone.
How you doing? How you doing?
Napoleon Nappy.
Yeah.
And then Bob Hope comes in. I love Lola Heatherton. It's hard to pick sketches because they weave, and I
so
love
the real show busy stuff seems to be the stuff that appealed to you.
excuse me, I love Martin Short and Eugene Levy as the two obnoxious lawyers.
Yes.
Like, what? I'm not going to... And they're yelling in
Yeah.
the street and gesturing.
Yeah.
I
Martin Short is so
Sid
bizarre
Dithers.
and funny. And what else?
San Francisco, did you drive and did you flew?
The way that show used grotesque characters was just unbelievable.
Yep, Rick Moranis. It's just
so good,
amazing.
yeah. People need to know more about SCTV. I love it so much, and it's such a great show.
And they also incorporated bands sometimes, the Tubes,
Which they had to,
Southside
yeah.
Johnny,
Fish
and the
and
Asbury
musicians.
Jukes. Yeah.
Roy Orbison,
Roy Orbison, that's right.
the Plasmatics.
And sometimes you could see how much fun the bands were having.
Yeah,
Like
because they would write them in.
Yeah. They would be sitting in the boat fishing with them.
The one that comes to mind the most is the Hall and Oates in Chariots of Eggs.
Chariots of Eggs.
And
Oh my
they
God.
are so game for it. And
I know.
if you compare it to SNL, it's a way that they used the musicians
Yep.
that they got stuck with in such an
Chariots of
amazing way.
Eggs.
Yeah. Mel's
But-
Rockpile.
Mel's Rock Pile. So I'm rocking Mel's,
Yep.
and the dance. And it wasn't essentially that funny, but there's just something funny
was
about
atmospheric.
that
Yeah.
particular
Yeah.
sketch. But the Mel's Rock Pile wasn't like a big belly laugher for me, but it's very funny. There's a number of things that are just very good, even if
Yeah.
they're not like laugh out loud funny, but they're just very good.
Enjoyable. They're like a time release. It's
Jerry Lewis live on the Champs-Elysees.
Yes, yeah.
That's one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen. And Tender Fella.
yeah.
When
Cinder. Yeah. Tender
when
Fella,
he's
yeah.
Tenderfelt, when he's
Yeah.
Jerry Lewis, and in Tender Mercies, unbelievable.
It's so
It's
smart
just,
and weird. And Andrew Martin is so funny that like I'm taking my own head. Do you remember that one?
I'm taking my own head, screwing it on straight, and no guy is going to tell me it isn't.
When she
Libby
has-
Wolfson.
Libby Wolfson. She has that conversation with Rick Moranis. She's like, "What do you smell? Let me smell your
You
breath."
smell
It's hot dogs?
breath. Did you have
It's
hot dogs?
Yeah. I
You
love that
are
scene.
so beautiful, and the politician. You got the Kennedy looks.
Yeah.
Remember when she was running
Yes,
Melon
against,
Vote? The whole
David
episode.
Rashi.
Yes.
Yes.
That whole episode, Melon Vote,
Yeah.
is one of my all-time favorites.
There's a sketch in that episode.
and Brock Linehan.
Brock Linehan. Kids, what's their problem?
Be Baha'i.
And we'll go all night, so I'll share this last one. In the election episode, there's a fake ad, and it's Joe Flaherty, and he's like, "I will drive you home."
Oh, yeah.
You know this sketch? And he goes, "If you're drinking, you call me. I will drive you home.
Right.
I will not stop to pick up women. I will not." And then he goes, "I will find my own way home. Don't worry about me."
Yeah, and then
it's
at
just
one
like this
time he
ad.
mentions Vic Hedges too.
Yes,
like
Vic- he saved my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vic Hedges saved my life is this thing that goes for. Oh, and there's a Joe Flaherty. There's like a dating game show thing, and he's playing a real sleaze. And he goes, "I'll pick her up at 4 and take her home at 12, and what happens in between is my business."
Oh my God. I don't remember that little piece, but I do remember. I will drive you home.
I will drive you home.
Melon Vote is one of the strongest, I would
Yeah.
say, straight through. And the Brock Linehan.
Brock
thing.
Linehan's Preteen World.
Preaching Worlds. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it's great. We should just go watch like SCTV
But
for
Brock
2 weeks.
Linehan with his wife.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
And he's wandering through the woods.
In a fur
kicking.
coat.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Janeane, thank you so much for doing the show. It's been great to talk
Thank
to you.
you. And I'm sorry I have a chest issue.
quite all right.
Coughing into the mic.
Janeane's a big fan of Doc
Bronchial.
Holliday.
I love Doc Holliday.
That I'd get the same TB he had.
Oh, I do have tuberculosis, but it's not contagious as far as I know.
Nice.
Oh no, I don't have that. I have
Okay. Because that's bad.
the bloody flux.
Oh, fine. Yeah,
Yes,
that's fine.
Roman.
Yes.
It's I like to get
a nice strain.
ancient Roman style diseases,
yes.
the bloody flux.
Well, I enjoyed the Greek version before that when it was.
Speaking of Rome,
Yes.
that HBO series for 2 seasons was one of my all-time favorite
I've never
shows.
seen it. Worth watching?
Oh my God.
I'll watch it.
I love Rome on HBO.
Okay.
It couldn't continue. It was too costly and they didn't have
Yeah.
enough viewers. But I am a huge fan of
Historical.
all things historical of all the Caesars.
Okay.
But this particular Caesar being the most famous,
Yeah.
Beware the Ides of March. Spoiler alert, Brutus killed Caesar.
Oh my God.
Still watch it though.
Yeah.
Still watch
Yeah.
it, even though I just
it's
told
worth
you
watching.
It was
Yeah.
Brutus.
You know it's Brutus.
It was
but
Brutus.
It's the way he does it.
But yeah, was it a knife in the center? I don't know. I don't know.
knows?
Who were his co-conspirators? I don't
Shouldn't
know.
say which Brutus.
I don't know. Did Cicero know anything? He said he didn't.
We'll never know.
Yeah, so I'm not going
Yeah.
to give the whole game
Yeah.
away. Cicero knew.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rome.
Rome.
HBO. Fantastic.
In the words of the B-52s, everybody, Rome if you want to. Thank you so much.
Oh, baby, I see you in my TV set. Yeah, baby, I see you in my TV set. I cut your head off and put it in my...
There you go. Janeane Garofalo, actress, comedian, all-around great person. Really like talking to Janeane. As I said, I hope you enjoyed listening to it. I enjoyed it so much, I neglected to discuss some of my absolute favorite things that she has done, like the fantastic role she played on The Adventures of Pete and Pete, her work on Delocated, just a lot of great stuff. But maybe I'll convince her again some point to sit down and talk to me about TV, and I can cover those topics then. As always, you can email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or at ken@icanread.com. Go to the Facebook page at TV Guidance on Twitter. Subscribe to the show. I put out a new episode every Wednesday, but I may have an episode on another day. You never know. So subscribe so you won't miss episodes. And if you like the show, please, please, please rate, review the show. It helps us get up the iTunes charts. It helps get the word out about the show. And I just want people to listen. That's all I want. That's all I'm asking. That's it. And we'll see you again Wednesday for a brand new episode of TV Guidance Counselor.
That is unusual to picture
Very
Goldblum in that context.
Yes.
Nobody needs to see themselves in HD. I guess was a real pill. Put it that way. Enjoy peas.
Yeah.